Stroke is a focal neurological deficit, which is of no other origin but cardiovascular in origin.
Depression is the leading cause of disability. Depression on its own is a persistent feeling of sadness, persistent feeling of hopelessness.
Hello viewers, welcome to this week's episode on Health Watch on Advent Cable Network Nigeria, ACNN. I am Angela Emeka Ibibo. The Association of General and Private Medical Practitioners of Nigeria in 2021 reported that life expectancy of the average Nigerian is 54 years, making it the 5th worst life expectancy in the world. What is life expectancy? It is the average period a person may expect to live. So as a Nigerian, you're expected to live for 54 years. And if you're more than 54, it means you have broken the jinx, you have defied Nigeria to survive more than it expects you to survive or live. One of the reasons for the low life expectancy is poor medical care and some diseases like malaria, tuberculosis, hypertension, diabetes, infant and maternal mortality, and so many. On the program today, we shall be looking at the lifestyle of countries who have very high life expectancy compared to ours. What are they doing, especially with regards to their lifestyle, that we can learn from? On the program today, my guest and I shall be discussing the topic, achieving longevity. And my guest is Dr. Goodwill Ogbuefi. He is a public health commentator. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Or should I say welcome back to the program, because the last episode we just talked on your food and your health. And of course, we got so many response from that, people, asking for how they can live better and how to get connected. So thank you for your help, for some of our viewers that sent in their messages. So today we're discussing longevity. If you are a Nigerian and you're 54, then you should be clapping for yourself because you have defied Nigeria and you've lived healthy. Well, let me say that it has improved over the years based on the research I did, and but it's slow. And it's still one of the worst in the world. I mean, the 5th worst. I can imagine the countries that are worse than that, So today we want to discuss longevity. We know the medical care issue. The government will deal with that, and as information keeps going, we'll deal with that. But today we want to look at what other countries are doing that have made them live that long. So some countries even as their life expectancy as long as 89. So we want to x-ray on that. But let's start with understanding what longevity is. Is it just living long and, well, what again? Just living long?
Yes.
Yeah.
Longevity essentially means to live a long life.
Okay.
And the definition is relative from person to person. But by and large, once you're up to 80 years and above, you're considered to have lived quite long.
A long life.
You remember a popular scripture, David said, the oldest among us is up to 70. He complained about a shorter long life and asked God to help them, even in ancient times. So once you are within that range, 80, 90, 100, you're considered fairly to be somebody who has lived quite a long life.
So, but it's you also need to, are you going to consider, okay, we're just talking of longevity, but will you consider the quality of life that you have lived? If you're 70 and you've been sick all your 70s, I don't think you want to consider that as a long, well, it's long life.
Yes, but you use a different metrics when you talk about quality of life. But of course, that's not what we're talking about today. And then if you've had chronic illnesses like diabetes, stroke, high blood pressure and all that throughout your lifetime, of course, you're looking at the quality of your life is really low. Of course, there are metrics all over the place that will measure all that. For the Nigerian man, of course, you know that with all the hustle, the bustle, and all the challenges we go through, that the quality of our life is fairly low. But by and large, you can't live long if your quality of life is really not good.
Really long. So I want to see how to maneuver the harshness of this this region we find ourselves. I know part of the research when I was doing the research for this, it was discovered that people who lived in Lagos, by the time you turn 54 or 55, you would have spent 6.7 years of your life on traffic. That's suffering. Yes. 6.7 years of, if you accumulate, if you put everything together, you would have spent that number of years just on traffic, not doing anything, just waiting for somebody in front to move.
But that's also true for someone who is in Mumbai, in India, or somebody who lives somewhere in central city, New York or London. The traffic in those cities are very heavy. And unless you're using a train or using other means to move around. So, but that's not the issue. But this also brings up the issue of environmental hazards. You talked about the environment, high traffic. The other mitigating factors to why people don't live long. Environmental issues. You talked about stress that is created by the environment where you live in. Poor air quality. Water quality remains a major issue. You find out that as the cities become crammed and very packed, there are too many trees around. And trees are very helpful for maintaining the environmental balance around you, particularly because they help mop out carbon dioxide and give out oxygen. Then you have also trees that by design, particularly citrus trees, contain essential oil. And those essential oil, when emitted and people around them take them in, they also are known to be anti-infection, anti-disease. So you find people living around where there are well-planted trees, they feel better. They don't suffer sometimes from certain type of ailments in very busy places. So you find that if you go to the Western world, the US, the Europe, there's a conscious effort to plant trees and gardens in the middle of towns. So these are some of the other things apart from poor medical care. You also have occupational hazards. If I'm a welder, by virtue of my work, I may have issues with my eyes. If somebody is a carpenter, there are issues that has to do with bodily injuries. So these are also other factors.
I like the fact that you pointed out the tree, because that's one of the very good things, because the trees are not just there. People just cut down trees. I know in FCT where we stay, it's wrong to just cut down trees, because you need some level of permission. They need to check that the tree is not causing any problem before you can cut down trees. So people think they just hate you, but no, there's a reason for having those trees around, because we need to interact with nature, to work. So that's part of the thing that can help us even live long, because
be close to nature. And for those who the whole idea of good health is the closer you are to the way God designed the environment, the better, which is the nature around you. So the moment you have very busy cities emitting a lot of carbon dioxide and there are no trees around, you begin to have issues. And that also brings us to the issue of government policies. As we develop, we must make sure that we incorporate natural issues, natural components into developmental plans for cities. You talk about Lagos, where a lot, but there has been effort in Lagos to green some of the areas. You've been to Lagos in recent times. Well, there has been some little efforts by the state government, but that should be part of what we should do. Houses should have trees around, orchards, little trees here and there.
Our forefathers who lived long, lived close to nature. They went to farm, they had trees all over the place. And that's a good point. I really like that information, because with trees, like you talked about the orange trees, there could be other trees that also do quite a lot. Yes. So, and if you notice an environment where there are flowers, it's cool.
Absolutely.
You water them, they have this transpiration pool, if I remember. The water is pulling from the ground up. So you have that area. There's this coolness in this area.
There's this coolness. Regulating the temperature, keeping it within a standard acceptable temperature for people. So a whole lot you could gain, and it's just that we're not doing. Development is moving so fast, and we're not really looking at those issues. Let me give an example. The orange, the back of an orange contains essential oils. Essential oils are a very unique set of compounds that are very volatile, and when inhaled, sometimes they help with countering nasal infections and all that. They're also found in plants that include the garlic, the clove, and the like. Very sensitive. They are anti-cancer properties. They have anti-infection properties. So generally, if you have a cut and you peel out the back of an orange and you squeeze it in that cut, it will help hasten the healing of that wound. So you find out that there's a whole lot around us that ensures our safety, maybe even serve as a little first aid tool.
First aid tool, yes.
If needed.
Yes. That's a beautiful one. So let's talk about communities, the countries. While I was in the research, I found out that Japan, I think they have the highest life expectancy. I think about 89 points, you know. And I know you've done quite some research on these different communities or countries that live long, and their lifestyle seem to maybe a little different. But what can we learn from them? You know, these countries. We can't do anything about our health system, so we have to take, certain steps to, have a better life. So we can copy from people. What are they doing? You know?
There is a region in Japan that has been lightly studied. And one of the researchers in the National Geographic channel, the popular satellite channel for nature, did some work about 15 years ago on the 5 blue zones, and he zeroed in on a region of Japan called Okinawa, and looked at why they live long, and there were a number of issues like nutrition, cultural issues, then you have environmental issues. Let's look at the nutrition. He noticed that their diets were very unique, but also found anywhere in the world. So one of the first things he realized was that their diets were very rich in vegetables, fiber-rich foods, and also proteinous materials. Then when it came to things they were taking in liquid, you had drinks that had what they call artery scrubbing properties. Arteries are actually a little pipe, let me use layman's, that allows blood to flow around the body, veins and arteries, and those things keep those little blood vessels from being clogged, so you don't have...
What they drink?
Drinks they take.
What kind of drinks they take? Okay.
Kind of cleanses that pipe where the blood runs through. There are two blood vessels that the body uses, veins and arteries. And so some of those things help them remove cholesterol, excess cholesterol along that blood vessels, preventing what you call arteriosclerosis, and all that. High blood, you don't have to have too many of them suffering from high blood pressure and other chronic diseases that affect the heart. So these were things that their nutrition were able to do. So you look at the vegetables, fruits, vegetables, spinach, and the like, garden egg, all that. You look at their proteinous intake, a lot of soybean, a lot of natural beans. And you look at the grains, they make sure that their grains are whole grains. So
I want to, this whole grain. Every time you say take whole grain foods in our own environment. Of course, we're still going to continue to see. Let's understand this whole grain. The kind of foods that we'll consider whole grain. How do you look at this and say this is whole? What we see is that you see people say whole grain bread, whole grain, even if some people even say you shouldn't even eat it because you add other things to it.
So essentially, when someone says taking whole grain, what that person is referring to is essentially cereals, corn, millet, sorghum, rice, and all that. When you harvest something there is a hard cover around it. Take, for instance, corn. There's this leafy aspect we pull out. That part is called the husk or the hull, a scientific name. That part is not edible, so you remove it. But usually there is a little tiny, after you've removed the husk, there's a little layer that covers the seed itself. That part is called a ban. That's a scientific name. Then inside the seed, you call it a endosperm or sperm, depending on the compartment you're referring to. These are the places we call the real, most of us take. So usually when you're referring to whole grain, it means you're not removing that little surface, seed cover, a very little broken seed surface. You find it in granules where you have a dry granite and you're trying to, people will just peel it a little and then blow it off. That part is called the band. Whenever you keep that part intact with the inner seed, you're looking at whole grain. In this case, granite is a nut. Not really a cereal, but it's also, that means that nut is whole. Now, when you do that with corn, when you do that with rice, you will have a whole grain. So what happens is, let's say you harvest rice, most people remove that little cover, that little surface seed cover that covers the kernel, the rice
brown? The brown?
Yes, the brown part.
The brown part.
They remove it, they mill it out, and then want it to be white. And most times the rice you find in the market are white.
It's very white,
Once you remove that little tiny surface seed cover that covers a thin layer that covers the rice kernel, you don't have a whole grain. But when you mill everything together, you have a whole grain. What you should be interested in removing is the husk or the hull, the part that is hard, that contains a lot of cellulose materials, leafy but are not edible. So you remove them and discard. But any other thing there that looks like a chaff, keep it intact. So when you now mill together with those, that thin layer that covers the seed, that you call the broken seed cover, when you mill them, it's generally referred to as whole grain, meaning that it contains the band. The band means the thin layer that covers the seed. Then the seed itself contains a sperm and an endosperm, the inner core of the seed. Yes.
That's a lot sticky. So, in other words, for example, this rice we've been eating we've just been eating.
We are just eating essentially the part called the endosperm. We're not taking in, we remove the essential thin layer that covers the seed. And that aspect contains vital materials like fiber, rich in fiber that aids absorption and digestion, contains essential minerals and vitamins. So when you're a cancer patient, the doctor will say, go take whole grain. Why is he saying that? Because that one is more nutritious.
Because there was a time, there's this famous research that came out then, and it was everywhere. And they were talking about the whole grain, and how we started having this increase in colon cancer and all that, because people had taken away the whole grain from the meal. Even the bread, you take out everything that is good for the body, and you just take in what it's not, what the body may not.
And of course, colon cancer could be caused by a number of factors. Poor digestion, poor condition of the intestinal tract and all that can now stimulate cells to grow beyond what they should. So of course, colon cancer, imagine if the digestions and all the movements, both the ones you are absorbing and the ones you are excreting, are moving normally. Of course, it will reduce the incidence of colon cancer. Interestingly, beans is...
Because they are legumes. But,
they are legumes.
You know, we want to make moi, we remove the back. When we want to make a remove the back.
Yes, so that back you're removing now is that thin layer called the band. And that is what, when you remove, you don't have a whole grain now. You're having just the inner part called the endosperm.
I'm just imagining how you can make moi with the back.
So you may have to give up a lot of, or you supplement. You could, since the core thing that those back contains, that thin layer contains, actually fiber and vitamins. If you must eat more, maybe you just get more vegetables and add to your meal to serve the same purpose. Those thin layer called the bran would also provide. Then the vitamins, of course, you could find one or two things to add to your moi moi.
Maybe I should try it and see what the back is like with it, and see if it comes out nice.
So once you're immunodepressed, your immune system is low. Of course, most health practitioners will recommend you take whole grain, so that your nutrient, your intake will also go. Another reason why they do that is because what they call it, you have a low glycemic index.
Okay, yes.
Glycemic index, low glycemic. Yes, is a term used to describe, it's a scale, scientific scale used to describe the quantity of carbohydrate in a food substance. And also, ultimately, the goal is to check how much glucose is found in the blood. Yeah. So, of course, whole grains have low glycemic index. And the milled grains that don't have the bran, their glycemic index is slightly higher, but we don't need to be using terms like that. We just, you know, that is food substances that are rich in carbohydrate can become another problem if the fiber contents are removed. So these are things you also look at. Then
so we should take. So what we want to take out now is, if you want to take rice, it is good. I know there's some rice that has, of course, part of the husk in it, and some they have the husk in it, and people go for it, you know. So we should go for things like that, eat things like that, right? What you're saying?
Remove the husk, but the brown layer.
No, the brown layer shouldn't be removed. Yes, shouldn't be milled off here. So you should eat those kind of.
Yes, but of course, when rice is harvested, there's a thick protective cover that should be removed. The husk, that one doesn't contain much except cellulose materials, lignin, and all that. These are compounds that we don't need to dwell on. So you remove them. But outside that brown cover, you should mill them together with the. So what happens in milling houses? They are constantly removing the brown.
To make it white.
To make it white, and of course, it's lost quite a lot of nutrients in the process.
Okay, let's go to fruits. Fruits are also, you can also classify them as fibers as well.
Fruits,
vitamin
rich,
and
then contain fibers.
Fibers,
Yes, and of course, the whole idea of fibers is because when you have once your food is rich in fiber, you can easily digest anything you're taking in. Then you also it also prevents things side effects that can arise from not having fiber, like you talk about colon cancer, you talk about constipation. Yes, and then allows organisms that naturally should grow around the GI tract, the intestinal tract, to grow. Those normal organisms, when they grow, they feed on those fibers also. Then eliminate things that can cause other side effects like ulcer and other infections. So people who take in a lot of fruits, of course, will get a lot of fiber intake. Then you also look at the fact that fruits contain a lot of vitamins and relevant.
Those are the acid antioxidant, like we discussed.
Yes, antioxidants, anti-inflammatory. So all that keeps your life prolonged. Extends your life, because if you have a lot of anti-inflammatory you are taking in on a daily basis, what that means is you may well beat the Nigerian Jenks of 54 years, and then live close to 70.
Because if I think what you're saying is right, because when we started changing our diets to more refined foods, then let's talk about cereal, like the cornflakes and all the flakes and all of them. Are they? Well, I don't really know how they are made, but what do you say about that? People who take a lot of that.
Yes.
Sometimes they even fortify some children. They say, "Oh, take fiber and fortify them."
Yes. The question is, some of those synthetic food products, you just look at their food content. Look at what do they contain. If they contain they contain the relevant vitamins, carbohydrates, and then some fiber, they're okay. The issue is, once you have you're taking in something and it doesn't contain the relevant amount of the different parts you need for good health, then you begin to raise questions.
Okay.
So you have to take in something that contains fiber, allows you to digest, contains vitamins, contains proteins and carbohydrates. You don't want to take in a food that contains, the nutrient content is lopsided towards being carbohydrate. So you then begin to have a high glycemic index. The food substance, then you now have, when you take it in, your sugar level rises. Then that would along the line result to illnesses like diabetes and all that. So you want your food to contain all that is required for you to maintain good health, thereby preventing chronic diseases from attacking your body, and then you can also live long.
All right, we're going to go on a break now. When we come back, I want us to look at other things these communities are doing, because we have seen lots of our fibers, we take them out of our food and then we're eating them. I think we're eating good food, but we're actually not eating good food per se. So we'll just look at other things that they do. Yes. We also look at the kind of drinks they take. We also look at whether they exercise or it's just that they just walk around and walk all day, and what do they do that we can copy. So what I've learned from this section now is take fibers.
Take food
that contains fibers, vitamins,
antioxidants, proteinous materials, and the required amount of carbohydrates. Your food intake shouldn't be lopsided. Often in Africa, food sometimes are culturally lopsided towards a particular part of food, maybe carbohydrate. That shouldn't. If your food should contain materials, it should contain those 6 classes or something close to it. And you shouldn't have too many carbohydrate where you now begin to suffer from some of the side effects. Of course, carbohydrate we need because we're strong people.
We do lots of energy intense work. Okay, all right, when we come back, we'll continue our discussion on achieving longevity. All right, viewers, we'll be right back.
Did you know Jesus said, "Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Ghost"? Did you know ACNN reaches out to all African, European and Asian countries? Did you know ACNN produces programs that provides Bible-based solutions to your everyday need? Would you consider partnering with us in order to help us reach out to more souls? Then become a part of ACNNTV Kingdom Investment Partnership. You can be a monthly or a yearly partner. To subscribe, make your partnership payment into this Zenith Bank account. For more details and confirmation of your AKIP subscription, please call +234 703 2656 544. You can also reach us via email. Together, we can reach the world with the undiluted Word of God.
Welcome back, viewers. We're still discussing achieving longevity, and my guest is still Dr. Goodwill Ogbuefi. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I've learned so much from the other this section. So we want to discuss now other things, from your research on these communities, And the thing is that we have we have the grains and the whole grain and the vitamins. We have it littered all over the place, so we should take advantage of them. So
I want to lay emphasis on the fact that proteinous foods are very important. Legumes, beans, very helpful. They are body building blocks. So if a part of my body is torn apart, proteinous substances are usually used to repair. So you want to have that in your meal regularly on a daily basis. Yes, because as you age, you need some of your cells well because you're getting older. So the more proteinous much better. They're mixed up with the things we've talked about, vegetable-like foods, whole grains, and then fruits that would enhance your health. Then some communities, the cultural plan or the way they behave, the way they live their lives also help. So like the Japanese, they don't usually talk about retirement. When a civil servant turns 60 in Nigeria, he wants to go and sit down somewhere, reducing his work life. The Japanese like to see it like you're transitioning. They move to something else. They can become a town crier. They can become a counselor somewhere. So they are still busy.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Yes. So, because if you notice, once people retire, they just age.
They just age.
After 1 year, you're wondering, but he was looking okay.
Yes.
Now, yeah.
So when you retire, you can take up a job in your church, become a Bible study teacher, a marriage counselor, or go to Amugu and become a babysitter, and provide some help in your local school, and counsel, visit local schools around you, be a counselor for young people, and then if you have opportunity, go back to your communities and be involved in charitable services, helping the young, the needy, and all that. So that allows you not to see yourself as aged. So that also helps the life. Then also there are communities that recognize old age and give them prominent places in the society. So there are places in Italy, if you are a particular age and you come in, your payment is half the price.
Oh, wow, okay.
And then
gives you that sense
gives you a sense of belonging. And sometimes, as you get older, you need people to give you that sense of accomplishment. You've paid your dues to the society. So there are societies where you find a lot of respect given to the old and those who are aging. That also helps.
Yes. And just as you were saying, you can go, even when you retire, you can go and do what you always love to do.
Yes.
Sometimes people pick up careers because they just want to make money or make ends meet. It's not necessarily what they want to do.
Yes.
But you can find out maybe you want to draw, you want to be an artist, you want to, whatever you want to do. I think when you retire, you can go ahead and pick up something to do to keep you busy so that you don't just sit down and start counting the number of days to the grave.
Yes, of course. You could become a writer.
A writer, yes.
But of course, in Africa, we don't tend to. You could go into something else. You could take up another course. A former U.S. president went into painting. George Bush, once he left the office, he became an artist, amateur artist.
Because like my dad, it's at his age now that he's discovering that he loves farming. And he just, every time he wants to travel to go and farm, he has a big farm, he's getting lands just to farm and harvest, and he's not even selling, just okay, let's just give it to people, that kind of thing. He just discovered that, I actually love farming.
Why not?
Why don't I,
not?
After being a businessman, I should go and farm.
Yes. Then you have other communities, like the Seventh-day Adventist community in California, also that has been studied and noticed that they live long. They have enough rest on Saturday.
Yes.
They have enough sleep at night.
Yes.
Enjoy themselves, walk when they need to walk, rest when they need to. Also, they are vegetarians, more towards plant-based meals than animals.
Let's talk about a little bit about rest.
Yes.
And sleep.
Yes.
People tend to think, if you sleep too much, you are sleeping away your life. You hear people, even motivational speakers, even telling you, don't sleep. If you sleep 4 hours every night, you're a failure, And somehow you still pay back for that lack of sleep later in your life because you need to sleep well. So that's why I agree. Even when the Bible said the Sabbath day, it told the children of Israel, that you have the Sabbath day, don't do anything. Don't do any work. Don't lift anything. Don't even make your oxen walk. Don't do anything. Just rest.
Go and rest.
But somehow, for us, Saturday, Sunday can be busier than Monday to Friday.
Absolutely.
You know?
For most people, Sundays and Saturdays are probably...
You're going for weddings, you're going for things, you don't get the opportunity to rest.
Yes.
You know,
so that's something to look at. Rest is also good. There are also those who have noticed that taking an afternoon nap can help. In fact, in some countries, particularly in the European countries, there are places where you could be allowed to take a little nap.
Yeah, the French people, you actually go home to go and sleep.
So helps you to reboot. So you find out that I remembered sometime today I was feeling very uneasy, so I just asked a colleague, can I just take a nap a little? 15 minutes.
Yeah,
and I was okay, and I said, okay, please. You know, so it works to sleep. Then at night, when it's the regular time, it allows your body to, you know, get back in shape. So you sleeping well, at least 6 to 8 hours should be
good. Okay, so that's the sleep well. That's part of it. They work in these communities. They do, you know, they don't just retire and go and start sitting at a place. So which means remain active. You know, people walk. Sometimes not even for much, but remain active even after retirement.
You look at exercise, you know, take a walkout, you know. But you will find out that often if you're very busy and you're not sitting in one place, you're exercising. When you go to the kitchen and prepare something, and when you go outside to wash your car, when you take a little walk around where you live, you mustn't always, people assume that exercise means you always be in a gym or something, or run 50 kilometers. Around you, once you're busy, you're not sitting, you're not actively involved in a sedentary lifestyle. That is where you're seated in the office and the AC is just blowing for 5 hours. You know, so you take a walk, you go to the department, you bend yourself, you bend and pick up a file. Just be active. Yes. You find that there are pregnant women who don't sit down even when they are pregnant, and they take time to be very busy working in the kitchen. They find that it's much easier
for them
during delivery. You know, then once you feel uneasy, you lie down, and you lie down for 4 or 5 months, and the baby is not moving around. So by the time it comes to delivery, you're struggling to push.
So there's no big man in sitting in one place and telling people do everything for you. It's fully. You should get up and do some form of movement.
Absolutely.
You know, pick things instead of sending, bring me this, bring me that. Take a walk, pick it, sit down, move, sit down.
Your driver who is doing all that is getting healthier. And you are getting, so you keep yourself busy. If you're a man, you could join your wife in the kitchen sometimes and keep her busy.
Very important. I agree. So let's talk about what they drink. You know, the kind of things they drink. I want to believe that they don't drink all these sugary, fizzy things that we drink these days.
Usually, sugary drinks are not the best for your health, of course. So, of course, they take natural liquid substances, including red wine, that may contain certain properties that could help the blood vessels, you know, and so on. Then you also will notice that their drinks are not necessarily laden with sugar, but rich in vitamins. You have in Nigeria kunu, for example. Fine, you don't need to use sugar. You can sweeten it with sweet potato. Or dates.
Yes,
you know,
dates is, it's everywhere now. People are really using that. Even I saw a dates a puree you can use in place of sugar. You know, to sweeten your food, and it's good.
So you could use that. So that allows you to do well. Zobo drink. You don't need to use sugar sometimes. Just use something else to sweeten it a little, and then you take. So it mustn't be what red wine. Red wines are quite expensive for a regular Nigerian.
Yes.
So, but you could things around you take should be things that help the body provide you a rich supply of vitamins, and enriches you. You don't have to go expensive to have the required intake of fluid water and local drinks that are good for the body.
Let's talk about the teas. I know in that part of the world, in Japan, the Chinese, they have this tea culture. I don't know if it's the tea or the fact that you're drinking something hot. They celebrate tea. When they're done, they take some kind of tea with leaf in it, and they just drink. I noticed recently, in my house, I just said, okay, every evening we just take a glass of tea, a cup of tea, and it's just you have boiled hot water. You put lemon, turmeric, bit of ginger, and garlic, and just little honey. Just put it there and just not too much. Just drink a little, and I realized that you just helps kind of, I don't know, somehow you don't feel like the food is still in your stomach. You feel lighter. I don't know what happens, but I just feel better. When I do that.
So what you've done is to bring in a number of fruits and vegetables that contains essential antioxidants. You can imagine you've locally brewed your own tea.
And I prefer it to all the other.
Of course, in those countries you have green teas and herbal teas that are like what you just talked about. Lemon is very rich in vitamin C. We tend to associate oranges with vitamin C, but lemons are actually more richer. Of course, it's also used for curing sea diseases, what they call scurvy.
So
when you're a salesman and you're traveling using a ship, of course, it's required you have some of those kind of. 100 years ago, it was an issue for the British fleet, and so lemon is rich. You look at garlic; contains a lot of active antioxidants. Dialide disulfide is a key component in very good, can fight infections and all that. So, but of course, all these communities have teas that contain phytochemicals that fight illnesses, that are antioxidants. So, tea culture is okay, but it's not very common in Nigeria.
It's not very common,
And we're not in East Africa, like Ethiopia, Rwanda, where they have mountainous regions where they grow a lot of tea. But of course, teas could be created locally, like you just did.
Just simple. You don't even have to go and look for expensive teas to buy. You can just do yours.
So the avocado pear leaf is a very important leaf for making.
I know some people have these. They take this
dogon yarrow.
Dogon yarrow. I don't know the English.
Dogon yarrow is the active ingredient for a very key anti-malaria drug now. So, but of course, before the scientists began to use it to treat malaria, it's been in form of the leaves were used to cure malaria and all kinds of fever-related illnesses. They would form it like a concoction, and you inhale it. Boil it actively.
Even bath with it.
So the tea that is extracted is, can help. A popular novel called Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe described in ancient times in the Igbo community in eastern part of Nigeria how the dogon yarrow was used and other herbal plants to treat illnesses. So of course, when you could use them, you could inhale them. Then also, like you said, in some cultures, there are plants that are relevant that can be drank, like the lemon and all that. Fruit is a very important fruit because it also has a number of essential oils too. That could also help with a lot of things in the body.
So just for disclaimer, I'm not saying that this is a treatment to anything. I'm just saying it's just to enhance health. I just noticed that when I take it, it helps a lot. And so
but of course,
you don't need not to take a big bowl of it and say, lemon. I know, just little, half a cup. We just the teacup, the small one. Just drink it hot. And it goes a long way to help.
And of course, for Nigerians, a lot of local herbs have been used, and doctors kick against them. So we're not encouraging you to, but just have a little where you can.
Focus on our local content, what we have locally. you know, like fruit, vegetables. Almost all the doctors I've had on the program, one of the things they always say is fruits and vegetables, fruit and vegetables, fruit and vegetables, fruit and vegetables. They have said it so many times, you know. If everybody could just take that, that would help them a whole lot. You know, if you're having low blood, you have your ugu, you know, blood count, you have ugu, it helps. It's like, it works very fast, you know. And so they have actually, you know, talked on this program. Our local food, our local
soups. The one culture that is also very important that was studied among the Seventh-day Adventists in the U.S. was that their belief system. If you're optimistic, you live long. If you're pessimistic, it will affect your life expectancy. You need to, your outlook about the world should be positive in spite of all the challenges. So the Bible says the power of life and death lies in the power of the tongue. So it's just about being optimistic too. So it was key, they underline that their belief systems. Christians are very upbeat, or people who believe in God are very upbeat and have they're optimistic about things, you know. A popular inventor called Thomas Edison, towards his in his 70s, the doctor realized his health conditions were very bad, but yet they were surprised he lived long. He still, so they refused to tell him his health conditions. You know, he had belief systems, he was going to invent this. So he invented the light bulb, the telephone. Eventually Bell helped him modify the telephone, the x-ray, the road tire, the electricity we have, you know, optimism, you know, active, believe that you are relevant, you have a purpose in life, you know, can also help you. But the moment you become pessimistic, you shouldn't see yourself as somebody who can make it. You know, the Bible says, I am wonderfully made. Psalm 139 verse 14. So you have to have a belief system that is positive. Some will call it motivational talk or life building discussions, but you need to have life building discussions. You need to believe God is going to be all right. And that tomorrow will be better, in spite of what happens around you.
Even the Bible tells us that those that observe lying vanities, you forsake your message. Sometimes if you keep looking at the bad part of everything, if you notice the people who look at the bad part of everything, oh, any little thing, oh, I'm dead, every little thing, oh, it's not going to be all right, oh, I'm finished, you know, there's the saying, I think there's a study that shows when you give them a problem and they start by saying, I cannot do it, then their whole mind shuts down and they can't achieve it. But when they sit, even if they don't know what it is and they are positive about it, we can do this thing. Somehow the mind kicks into action. So it's a good. I think that's a beautiful place to wrap up, because it says that it will be all right. Nigeria, the world is never going to get better. Nobody's going to hand down money to you. Nobody's going to wake up one day and solve all your problems. You know, as long as you're alive, there will be issues, there will be challenges. But it's to look life in the face and say, okay, I'm going to beat you. I'm going to be fine. You know. So yeah, that's a good one. Thank you very much for that. You know, have a positive outlook to life. That's a very important health tip for longevity. So if you want to live till 80, 90, it's a good one to have a positive view to life.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming on the program.
My
it's
pleasure.
So good to have you. I wish I could have you again next week, or per week. But you're a very busy person, so pulling you out is not the easiest of things to do. But thank you very much for coming on the program and educating us. And I know there are lots of our viewers that are watching and they would like to contact you at some point. So please send us your message, and please, he's free. He's happy to be disturbed. You know, he's happy to be disturbed. Let me say that for you. You're happy to. So when we reach out to you, I know that you'll be ready to respond to our call. Thank you very much for coming on the program. And for the past couple of minutes, I've been speaking with Goodwill Ogbuefi. He's a public health commentator, and I believe you have learned so much today. What we have is enough. It's good. God has given us all that we need to live long, and not just long, but healthy. So please take some of the words we have discussed today, and then also make your research. Find out about things. You'll be amazed at the information that's out there for you. Thank you for joining us on the program. Today we talked on achieving longevity, and I look forward to hearing from you, some of you who tried some of the things we have done. If you have any good experience, please just send it to us. We'd like to share it and also celebrate with you. Thank you for joining us on the program. I am Angela Emeka Ebibo. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.